There is a phrase my grandmother used to repeat to me when I was a child. "Sweetheart, life has many twists and turns, and he who laughs last, laughs best." I would nod without truly understanding what it meant. I thought it was one of those empty phrases adults say to console you when things go wrong. But the day I saw Alejandro's resume on my desk, with his professional photo and his cover letter asking for a job in my company, that day I understood every word my grandmother had uttered. Let me tell you how the man who humiliated me, who told me I was not enough, who abandoned me because in his words I lacked ambition, ended up sitting across from me in a job interview, sweating and stammering while I decided his future. But for you to understand the satisfaction I felt in that moment, I need to take you back to the beginning. To when I was simply Valentina, a 27-year-old girl who believed she had found the love of her life. I met Alejandro at a cafe near my office. I worked as a junior analyst at a medium-sized tech company. It wasn't a glamorous position, but I liked it. I arrived early, stayed late, learned everything I could. My direct boss, an older man named Roberto, always told me, "Valentina, you have something special. Never lose it." That March morning, I was in line to order my usual black coffee when I heard a voice behind me. "Excuse me, do you know if the Wi-Fi here is good? I need to send some urgent emails." I turned and saw a man about 30 years old, dark hair perfectly styled, an expensive-looking gray suit, and a smile that seemed pulled from a magazine. He was handsome, too handsome to be talking to me, I thought at that moment. "Yes, it works pretty well," I replied, trying to sound casual while feeling my cheeks burn. "Perfect. I'm Alejandro, by the way." He extended his hand as if we were in a business meeting. "Valentina. Valentina," he repeated, as if savoring my name. "Do you work around here?" That's how it all began. A 5-minute conversation that turned into an exchange of numbers. A text that same night that said, "It was a pleasure meeting you. Would you like to have dinner with me on Friday?" And I, naive, excited, suspecting nothing, said yes. The first weeks with Alejandro were like living in a romantic movie. He took me to elegant restaurants, sent flowers to my office, introduced me to his friends as the smartest woman I've ever met. I floated. I literally floated. Alejandro worked as a sales executive at a luxury real estate firm. He earned well, dressed better, and always talked about his big plans. He was going to be vice president before 35. He was going to have his own company before 40. He was going to be someone important. "And you will be by my side when I achieve it," he would say while holding my hand in some expensive restaurant. "Though of course, you need to be more ambitious. My love, you can't stay an analyst forever." The first time he said it, I thought it was well-intentioned advice. The second time, it made me a little uncomfortable. By the 10th time, it was a recurring theme in our conversations. "Why don't you ask for a promotion?" he would ask. "I've been at the company for less than 2 years. I have to earn that promotion." "Oh, Valentina, that employee mentality is what's holding you back. You have to demand what you deserve." What he didn't understand, or didn't want to understand, was that I did have ambition. It's just that mine wasn't measured in pompous titles or 6-figure salaries. My ambition was to learn, to grow, to build something solid. But for Alejandro, if it wasn't visible, it didn't count. We moved in together after 8 months of dating. It was his idea. He found a beautiful apartment in an exclusive area of the city and convinced me it was an investment in our future. "The rent is a bit high, but between the two of us we can afford it without a problem," he said. What he didn't tell me was that between the two of us meant I would pay 60% because he had more business expenses for his work. He also didn't tell me he expected me to take care of all the household chores because he came home too tired from his important meetings. Nor that the elegant dinners would gradually disappear, replaced by nights when he went out with his colleagues, while I waited for him with dinner ready. But I was in love, and when you're in love, you convince yourself that flaws are just areas of opportunity, that things will improve, that he will change. How naive I was. The first big blow came at the Christmas dinner with his family. Alejandro's parents lived in a huge house on the outskirts of the city. His father owned a chain of pharmacies, and his mother had never worked a day in her life. They had money, and they loved making sure everyone knew it. That night, while we dined on turkey with side dishes that probably cost more than my weekly salary, his mother decided to interrogate me. "So Valentina, are you still working at that little computer company?" "It's a technology company, ma'am." "And yes, I'm still there. In fact, they just gave me a very important project." "That's nice. That's nice," she said, with that condescending tone only rich mothers-in-law can master. "Although Alejandro told us you don't earn much. We hope that changes soon, right? My son deserves a partner at his level." I felt the turkey get stuck in my throat. I looked at Alejandro, expecting him to say something, to defend me, to explain to his mother that my work was valuable even if it didn't pay millions. But he just laughed nervously and changed the subject. That night, in the car on the way home, I exploded. "Why didn't you say anything? Your mother practically called me worthless, and you stayed quiet." "Don't exaggerate, Valentina. That's just how she is. She didn't mean it maliciously." "Don't exaggerate. She humiliated me in front of your whole family. Look, if you had a better job, she wouldn't have anything to criticize. Just saying." I froze. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you blaming me?" "I'm not blaming you. I'm telling you the truth. You have potential, Valentina, but you're not taking advantage of it, and that affects both of us." I didn't sleep that night. I stayed staring at the ceiling, wondering at what point the man who told me I was the smartest had started making me feel like the most insignificant. The following months were a roller coaster of good and bad moments. Alejandro could be charming when he wanted to. He surprised me with little things, said nice things, made me feel special. But every time I achieved something at work, he found a way to minimize it. When I got a performance bonus, his response was, "That's great, although it's not much compared to what I earn in commissions." When I was invited to give an important presentation, he told me, "Just don't get nervous. You know you're not very good at public speaking." When my boss Roberto called me into his office to say he was considering me for a leadership position, Alejandro commented, "Well, it's not like you're going to be CEO." Every comment was like a small needle piercing my self-esteem. And the worst part is I started to believe him. I started to think that maybe I was mediocre, that maybe I should try harder, that maybe he was right and I simply wasn't enough. The day everything changed was a Thursday in April. Alejandro had been acting strange for weeks. He came home late, locked himself away to talk on the phone, turned his phone face down whenever we were together. I wanted to believe it was work, but something inside told me there was more. That night, he was in the shower when his phone rang. I had no intention of checking it. I had never been that kind of controlling girlfriend, but the name on the screen left me paralyzed. Carolina. A kiss emoji. Next to the name of a woman I didn't know. With my heart pounding a mile a minute, I picked up the phone. It had no password. Alejandro always said he had nothing to hide. I opened the conversation, and what I saw shattered me. There were hundreds of messages, photos, voice notes, a complete relationship unfolding before my eyes. "I miss you, my love. Last night was incredible. When are you going to leave her? I can't wait anymore." And Alejandro's response, "Soon, my love. I just need to find the right moment. You know, with her it's complicated. She has nothing, and I'm going to have to take care of everything when I leave her. She has nothing. I'm going to have to take care." Those words seared into my brain like hot iron. That was me to him. A burden. A problem he had to take care of. A woman who had nothing. The shower stopped. I heard his footsteps approaching. I put the phone down exactly where it was and sat on the bed, trying to control my breathing. Alejandro came out of the bathroom with a towel around his waist and his usual smile. "Everything okay, my love?" I looked at him. Looked at this man with whom I had shared almost 2 years of my life. The man who had made me feel small, insignificant, mediocre. The man who was cheating on me while I paid most of the rent for his precious apartment. Yes, I lied. Perfect. Because in that moment, I understood something very important. I wasn't going to confront him. I wasn't going to cry or beg. I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of seeing me destroyed. I was going to be smart. I was going to plan. And when the right moment came, I would leave with my head held high. The following 3 weeks were the hardest of my life. I had to act as if I knew nothing while inside I was dying of pain and rage. I had to smile at him, kiss him, sleep beside him, all while preparing my escape. The first thing I did was look for an apartment. I found a small but cozy one in a more modest area of the city. The rent was half of what I paid with Alejandro, and it was in my name only. The second thing was to talk to my boss, Roberto. I told him I was going through a complicated personal situation and needed his advice. "Valentina, you are one of the most valuable people in this company," he told me that day. "And I'm not the only one saying it. The board has been watching your work. There are important changes coming soon, and we want you to be part of them." "What kind of changes?" Roberto smiled mysteriously. "I can't tell you the details yet, but trust me, your moment is about to come." I left that meeting feeling, for the first time in a long time, hopeful. The day I left Alejandro was a Friday night. He had come home early from work, which was unusual. He was in a good mood, whistling while he poured himself a glass of wine. "I have incredible news, Valentina," he told me with a huge smile. "Oh, really?" I replied, while discreetly finishing packing a few things into my bag. "They offered me a position at another company. Better salary, better position, better benefits. It's in another city, but the change is worth it." "Good for you." He frowned, clearly expecting a more enthusiastic reaction. "Good for me. Valentina, this is incredible. We're moving. It's going to be a new beginning for both of us." I slowly got up from the sofa. I looked him directly in the eyes. "No, Alejandro, you are moving. I'm staying here." His expression went from confusion to anger in a matter of seconds. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that I know about Carolina. I know you've been cheating on me for months. I know you think I have nothing and that I'm a burden you have to take care of." The color drained from his face. For the first time since I'd known him, Alejandro was completely speechless. "Valentina, I'm not interested in your explanation," I interrupted. "I already signed the lease for my new apartment. I've already packed my important things. You can keep or throw away the rest. I don't care. And this is my last night here." Wait. Alejandro took a step toward me, trying to grab my arm. "You can't leave like this. We need to talk." "Talk about what?" "About how you've made me feel miserable for months. About how you made me believe I was mediocre while you were sleeping with someone else. Valentina, Carolina means nothing. It was a mistake. You're the woman I want to be with." I laughed, a bitter laugh that came from the depths of my soul. "Me? The one who, according to you, has no ambition, no money, nothing to offer. Sure, now suddenly I'm the woman of your dreams." "You're exaggerating. I never meant to make you feel bad. Alejandro, you spent 2 years making me feel I wasn't enough. Every achievement I had, you minimized it. Every dream I shared with you, you ridiculed it. You made me believe that without you, I was nothing. But you know what? I was wrong. And so were you." I picked up my bag and walked to the door. "Valentina, please." His voice sounded desperate now. "You can't leave me like this. What will I tell my family? What will they think?" There it was. Even at that moment, the only thing that mattered to him was his image. "Tell them whatever you want," I replied as I opened the door. "It's not my problem anymore." And without looking back, I closed that chapter of my life forever. The first months after leaving Alejandro were difficult. Even though I knew I had made the right decision, the pain didn't disappear overnight. There were nights when I cried myself to sleep. There were mornings when it was hard to get out of bed. There were moments when I wondered if I should have stayed, if I should have tried to fix it, if I should have been better. But whenever those thoughts appeared, I remembered his words, "She has nothing," and the rage gave me strength to move forward. I focused on my work like never before. I was the first at the office and the last to leave. I took online courses, attended conferences, read everything I could about technology, leadership, and entrepreneurship. And then, 3 months after my breakup, Roberto called me into his office again. Valentina, do you remember the changes I mentioned? Of course. Well, the time has come. He leaned back in his chair with a smile. The board has decided to create a new division focused on technological innovation, and they want you to lead it. I froze. Me? As manager? No, Valentina. As director. Director. At 28 years old, at a company where I had started as a junior analyst less than 3 years earlier. Roberto, I don't know what to say. Say yes. You've earned it. Your work, your dedication, your vision, it's all been exceptional. And honestly, I think this is just the beginning for you. I signed the contract that same week. My salary tripled. I would have my own office, my own team, my own budget. It was everything I had dreamed of, and more. And the best part, I had achieved it on my own, without Alejandro, without anyone telling me I wasn't enough. During the following months, I immersed myself completely in my new role. I hired an incredible team. We launched 3 successful projects. Our division became the most profitable in the company. Specialized media started writing about us, about me, about the young director revolutionizing the industry. My face appeared on the cover of a local business magazine. I was invited to give talks at universities and corporate events. I started receiving offers from other companies, investors interested in my ideas, consultants who wanted to work with me. Everything Alejandro had said, I would never achieve, I was achieving, and more. I also worked on myself. I went to therapy to heal the wounds he had left. I learned to recognize my value without needing anyone's validation. I rebuilt my self-esteem piece by piece. And just when I thought my life couldn't get any better, I met Martin. He was an architect working in the building next door. We met in the elevator one Monday morning, when I was running late and he held the door for me. Thank you, I said, breathless from running from the parking lot. You're welcome. He smiled with the most genuine smile I had seen in a long time. Valentina. And so without drama, without fireworks, without any sign that my life was about to change, began the healthiest and most beautiful relationship I've ever had. Martin was everything Alejandro had not been. He celebrated every achievement, no matter how small. He listened when I talked about my work without interrupting or minimizing me. He supported me on my difficult days without making me feel weak for having them. You're amazing, you know that? He told me one night while we had dinner in my small apartment. Why do you say that? Because you are, everything you've achieved, the person you are. I feel very lucky to be with you. For the first time in my adult life, I was with someone who truly saw me and who liked what he saw. Exactly 6 months after my breakup with Alejandro, I was in my office reviewing some reports when my assistant knocked on the door. Excuse me, Valentina. Human Resources needs you to review some job applications. They say it's urgent. I frowned. It wasn't usual for them to ask me to review resumes directly. Normally the HR team did a pre-selection first. Why are they sending it to me? Apparently there's a candidate for the senior analyst position who has a potential conflict of interest. They want you to evaluate it before proceeding. Okay, leave them on my desk. My assistant placed a folder in front of me and left. I opened the document without thinking much, expecting to find some candidate who had worked with a competitor or something like that. But what I found took my breath away. The name at the top of the resume was Alejandro Mendoza Torres, with his professional photo. The same arrogant smile, the same expensive suit. And below, a cover letter where he explained he was seeking new opportunities after a corporate restructuring, and that he greatly admired the innovative work the company was doing under its new leadership. I leaned back in my chair, unable to process what I was seeing. Alejandro, my ex, the man who told me I had no ambition, the man who made me feel less than nothing, was applying for a job in my company, in my division, a position that would be directly under my supervision. The irony was so perfect, it almost seemed like fiction. I called Human Resources immediately. I need all the information about this candidate, I told them. Complete work history, references, everything. Of course. Director, is there a problem? I just want to be fully informed before making a decision. What I discovered in the next few hours was revealing. The incredible position in another city that Alejandro had gotten when we separated had lasted exactly 4 months. Apparently, his arrogant style hadn't sat well with his new boss, and he had been fired for irreconcilable differences. After that, he had tried to return to his previous job, but the company had already hired someone else. He had spent the last 2 months unemployed, living off his savings, trying to get something up to his standards. And now, desperate, he had applied to my company without knowing, or perhaps without remembering, that I was the director of the division he was applying to. I also did a little research on Carolina. It turned out she had left him just 3 weeks after our breakup, when she realized Alejandro wasn't as successful as he pretended to be. Karma, I thought. Pure karma. I had 3 options before me. The first, reject his application immediately and never think about him again. The second, let human resources handle it without my intervention. The third, interview him myself. I thought about the decision all night. One part of me wanted to simply throw it in the trash and move on with my life. Another part wanted to see him, talk to him, show him everything I had achieved without him. I talked to Martin about the situation. "What do you think I should do?" I asked him. "I think you should do what gives you peace," he replied, taking my hand. "If seeing him is going to hurt you or set you back, it's not worth it. But if you think it might help you close that chapter completely, then do it." I thought about his words all night, and the next morning, I made my decision. "Good morning, this is the assistant of Director Valentina Reyes. I'm calling to confirm your interview for tomorrow at 10 a.m. From my office, I listened as my assistant made the call. I wanted to be present for that moment. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Valentina Reyes." I heard Alejandro's voice, though distorted by the speakerphone. "Yes, sir. She is the director of the Technological Innovation Division. Is there a problem?" Another silence. No problem. I'll be there." When my assistant hung up, I looked at her with a smile. "Thank you, Lucia. Make sure the conference room is ready." "Of course, Director." The morning of the interview, I wore my best suit. Not to impress Alejandro, those days were behind me, but for myself, to remind myself who I was now. I looked in the mirror in my office and saw a woman I didn't quite recognize. She wasn't the insecure Valentina who let a man make her feel less. She was someone else. Someone stronger. At 10 o'clock sharp, my assistant knocked on the door. "The candidate is here. Show him in." The door opened, and there he was, Alejandro Mendoza Torres. The man who had occupied my thoughts for 2 years. The man who had destroyed my self-esteem piece by piece. But something was different. The suit he wore was slightly wrinkled. The hair that had always been perfect looked unkempt, and his eyes had a glint of desperation I had never seen before. "Valentina," he said, frozen in the doorway. "Alejandro." I stood up from my chair calmly. "Please have a seat." He walked forward slowly, as if each step took enormous effort. He sat across from me, on the other side of my mahogany desk, and for the first time in our entire history, I was the one with the power. "I didn't know you were the director," he began to say. "When I saw the company name, I didn't think that the girl with no ambition had come this far." I interrupted, keeping my tone completely professional. He had the decency to look ashamed. "Valentina, what happened between us?" "What happened between us has nothing to do with this interview," I told him. "You are here because you applied for a position in my division, and I am going to treat you exactly as I would treat any other candidate, with professionalism and objectivity." He swallowed and nodded. "Thank you. That's all I ask." "Good." I opened his file in front of me. "Then let's begin. Tell me about your recent work experience." What followed was, without a doubt, the most uncomfortable interview in history. Alejandro tried to sell me his achievements with the same arrogance as always, but there was something forced about his delivery. He mentioned projects that had failed as if they were successes. He exaggerated his role in teams where he had been a minor participant. He used grandiose words that meant nothing. And in my last position, I was instrumental in developing a sales strategy that revolutionized the regional market, he said. "Your last position from which you were fired after 4 months," I noted, checking my notes. His face reddened. There were creative differences with management. Sometimes visions don't align. I understand. I wrote something in my notebook. And what did you learn from that experience? For the first time, Alejandro seemed to run out of prepared answers. He was silent for several seconds. I learned that sometimes one overestimates their own worth, he finally said, his voice barely audible. I looked up from my notes. There was something in his tone that sounded genuine. And what does that mean exactly? He sighed deeply. It means I spent years believing I was better than others. That my title, my salary, my connections made me superior. And when all that disappeared, I realized I had nothing real. Nothing I had built myself. He paused, looking me directly in the eyes. You, on the other hand, built all this. He gestured, encompassing my office. Without anyone's help. Despite people like me who tried to convince you that you couldn't. And you were right, all along. Right about what? About true success not being measured in what you have, but in who you are and how you treat others. His voice cracked slightly. I treated you horribly, Valentina. I made you feel small when you were the most valuable person I knew, and I lost everything because of it. Not just you, everything. The silence in the office was deafening. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall, the distant murmur of the city outside. Alejandro, you don't have to give me the job, he interrupted. I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, truly sorry. I looked at him for a long moment. This wasn't the Alejandro I knew, the arrogant, condescending, self-assured man. This was someone broken. Someone who had finally learned a lesson life had in store for him. And suddenly I realized something. I no longer felt rage toward him. I didn't feel resentment. I didn't feel anything at all. I had closed that chapter completely. Alejandro, I said finally, I'm going to be honest with you. He nodded, preparing for the rejection. Your resume isn't bad. You have experience, you have knowledge, you have skills that could be valuable, but you also have an attitude that has sabotaged every opportunity you've had. I know. Let me finish. I leaned forward. If I give you this job, it won't be because you feel guilty or because you want to prove something. It will be because you are truly willing to work hard, to learn, to treat everyone, and I mean everyone, with respect. Are you considering hiring me? I'm considering giving you a chance. 1. If you waste it, if I see even a glimpse of the arrogant Alejandro I knew, you will be out. No second chances. Understood. Understood. His voice trembled. Thank you, Valentina. I won't let you down. I hope not. I stood up, indicating the interview was over. Human Resources will contact you with the contract details. You start Monday. He stood up, visibly shocked. He extended his hand to shake mine. Thank you, he repeated. For the opportunity, and for being a better person than I ever was to you. I shook his hand briefly. Just prove you can change. That's all I ask. When Alejandro left my office, I stayed looking at the city through the floor-to-ceiling window. The lights of the buildings shone against the twilight sky, and for the first time in a long time, I felt absolute peace. I hadn't hired Alejandro out of revenge. I hadn't hired him to humiliate him or to prove anything to him. I had hired him because I believed in second chances, because I knew what it was like to feel at rock bottom and need someone to believe in you. My grandmother was right. Life has many twists and turns, but what she didn't tell me, what I had to learn for myself, is that the turns aren't about revenge. They are about growth, about becoming the person you were always meant to be. That night, I came home and found Martin making dinner. How did it go? He asked, giving me a kiss on the forehead. Good, I replied, smiling. Very good, actually. And with your ex? I gave him the job. Martin raised his eyebrows, surprised. Really? Really, not because he deserved it, but because I no longer need him to fail to feel successful. My success doesn't depend on his failure. Martin hugged me, and in that hug I felt everything I had always searched for: acceptance, support, genuine love. I'm very proud of you, he whispered. I am too, I replied. I'm very proud of myself. 2 years have passed since that interview. Alejandro still works at my company. I won't lie, the first months were difficult. There were moments when I saw glimpses of the old Alejandro, comments that bordered on arrogance, attitudes that threatened to return. But each time he stopped. He took a breath, he changed direction. Today he is one of the most respected analysts on the team. Not the most brilliant or the most innovative, but the most dedicated. The one who arrives early, stays late, helps others without expecting anything in return. The one who finally understood that true success isn't measured in titles. Are we friends? No, we're not. Some wounds heal, but they never completely disappear. We maintain a strictly professional relationship, polite but distant, and that's okay. As for me, my career continued to grow. 6 months ago, I was offered the position of general director of the entire company. I accepted. Martin and I got married last year in a small, intimate ceremony. My parents cried with happiness. My grandmother, who is now 90 years old, took my hands and told me, "I told you, sweetheart. He who laughs last, laughs best." But I no longer believe it's about that. It's not about laughing at anyone. It's not about winning or losing. It's about finding your own path, about overcoming those who try to bring you down, about becoming the best version of yourself. And if in the process, life decides to teach a lesson to someone who hurt you, well, that's just a bonus. If you are listening to this story and feel identified, if you are with someone who makes you feel small, who minimizes your achievements, who makes you believe you are not enough, I want you to know something very important. You are enough, exactly as you are. Your dreams are valid. Your work is valuable. Your presence matters. You don't need anyone's validation to be extraordinary. And if one day you decide to leave, because sometimes the best decision is simply to leave, do it with your head held high. Do it knowing that on the other side there is an incredible life waiting for you, a life where you decide your own worth. Because the people who belittle you today might be knocking on your door tomorrow asking for an opportunity. And you will be the one to decide if you give it to them. Thank you for listening to my story. Take good care of yourselves, and remember your success doesn't depend on anyone but yourselves. Until next time.